And we're on, everybody. What's going on? Christian Ballard, Ballard Sports Media. Special guest Tony Altimore joining us for the final day of conference week. And we saved one of the best for last. I think it is a really good conference to talk the Pac-12. And Tony, how you doing today?
Good, thanks. Yeah, it should be an exciting year. There's a lot of really, really good teams in the conference. So I'm excited. USC's last year in the Pac-12.
Yeah, the same for UCLA too. So I do want to ask, how did we get to that moment where USC and UCLA not only leaving the Pac 12, which, by the way, Oregon and Washington are set to leave for the same conference in the Big Ten? How did we get to this moment?
I don't know. Is Taylor Swift set to leave for you or me? Because Oregon and Washington do not have any invitations forthcoming. I mean, I love the Ducks. I love the Huskies. That's sort of a weird, it seems like a very Big 12 invented fictitious idea. Oregon and Washington applied to the Big Ten last year. They were politely declined, and that has not changed. So it's very interesting. There's a lot of very strange people in Provo and Lubbock and Waco and places like that think that Oregon and Washington are going to go somewhere. So far, the Big Ten presidents have been pretty resolute that they decided that a long time ago. So USC and UCLA are off to the Big Ten. And it was announced very clearly. Ryan Karchi wrote it up in the LA Times the day that the USC UCLA move happened, that no other Pac-12 teams would be joining them. And truly, again, since that day, June 30th, 2022, absolutely nothing has changed in that front. So Washington and Oregon are, unless a super majority of the Big Ten presidents change their mind, are absolutely not going to the Pac-12. I'm sorry, leaving the Pac-12. It's been a long day already.
Yeah, absolutely. And we say hello to the chat too. If I could get it to pull up here, we got a comment rolling in with LW.
LW,
he says,
Roll Tide.
Williams. Yes, sir. Roll Tide. He says Williams, Penix, Rising, and Nix. I wanted to ask about the quarterbacks. I didn't think about Cam Rising in Utah, but yeah, the Pac-12 is going to be fun and competitive at the quarterback position. What can we expect in that?
Well, for almost every team has really good quarterbacks. And add into that, what is it? Bourget and Drew Pine are going to battle it out Raiola or whatever at Arizona State. You've got Jane DeLore at Arizona. You've got Shedeur Sanders at Colorado. What's the name at Wazoo? I mean, basically every team in the Pac-12 is a great quarterback. DJ Uiagalelei is at Oregon State. So, you've got the 5-star now at Oregon State. So there's really Stanford is the only team that's really seems to be lacking at quarterback. John Wilner calls it the Bay Area black hole. So we don't know what's going to happen with either of those two schools in San Francisco, but the whole rest of the conference is dramatically improved. And, one of the rough things from that is the 2021 Pac-12 was probably the worst year that the conference has had since its founding in 1959. They looked at some retroactive metrics and said, back when it was a different conference called the PCC, it was a totally different conference that the teams were in. In the 40s, there was one year that was worse, in World War II. But since then, 2021 was the worst year of the conference. And so with all of and one of the things, actually, by the way, that doesn't get credit for, the commissioner went around when he took over and basically had to sit down with each school and said, you need to get your act together. And they did. So the one downside is that because all the teams are so much better, even though a lot of teams are better, they're not going to win more. It'll be interesting, for example, to see what happens with Arizona. This is such a better Arizona team than they've had in years, but all the other teams are better too. Oregon State is better. Oregon's better. USC's better. UCLA's better. Arizona State's better. Colorado, the worst team in the world, has completely rebuilt their whole roster. So, are they built it enough to win games? We'll find out. It's going to be
Yeah,
interesting.
absolutely. I think that the Pac-12 is definitely overlooked as a conference this season. I mean, because even for me, I look at the main three guys. I see USC, I see Washington, I see Oregon. After that, it kind of falls off. But you made some really good points about some of the quarterbacks, and let's
I
especially
mean,
let's not
Oregon's
overlook what Oregon did beat
they
a team in
won
like
10
Florida
games last
last
year.
year too.
Yeah, they stomped Florida
Yeah,
last year.
won a bowl game.
So, it'd be really
Yeah.
interesting. And we're going to find out early in the season with Utah. I think Utah plays what, Florida and Baylor early in the year. So we're going to get some
Okay.
really interesting stuff with that. We've got Oregon going to Lubbock. They play Texas Tech. I'm trying to remember what other big non-conference games. Those are a couple of big ones that come to mind. So we are going to get some good, I think, kind of early conference defining moments to really see if everything is where they think it's going to be, which it should be fun.
Yeah. We're talking with Tony Altimore here at Ballard Sports Media for Conference Week, the final day, and it's been a great week. And I want to go ahead and thank all the guests that we've had on here, man. It's been a really fun week. It's been a really good time. And what I did want to bring up, because I don't really get into this side of college football. Number one, I don't really get much into the Pac-12. But I also don't get into like media rights and TV deals and stuff. But I did see news, the grant of rights deal and the TV deal for the Pac 12. The rumors are that it's done. Is that correct?
So that's what we've been told. It's been confirmed by the San Jose Mercury News, confirmed by the folks up in Oregon, confirmed by the Athletic, that the Pac-12 presidents did agree to their grant of rights. On Friday, Washington State authorized their president to sign the grant of rights. We know a lot of other presidents don't need special authorization, but Washington State regents actually passed the resolution allowing their president to sign it. And John Canzano, has some folks in the Big 12 that don't like him, but is a brilliant, like famous award-winning reporter, like capital J journalist, has presidents or ADs, I'm not sure exactly who, I forget who he said he talked to, that have confirmed they believe the number will be higher than the Big 12. Again, I defer.
Wow.
I never really get into the media rights piece because I don't really care. I mostly care about the teams and the games and the schools.
Right.
Like I said, I've always figured, it'll be fine. They've told us it will be fine. The president said it will be fine. And, if, Cougar Nimrod 6969 on Twitter doesn't like it, that's too bad. But they say that they have agreed to the grant of rights. One of the things that I've been told the whole time is that no school has seriously considered moving or will be moving. So, that's the thing. Like, in all honesty, there's a lot of people that are just lying to fans about that. And I mean, we'll see. Maybe the folks, maybe, one of the things that people don't appreciate is that university presidents don't lie about this stuff. They've had, estimates where they said, oh, we think we'll be done in a month or two. And, every idiot in the Big 12 Twitter world, like, oh, they gave a deadline. No, they didn't.
Yeah.
There's also kind of a very false belief that anybody on the West Coast that runs universities cares what any idiot football fan in the rural plains thinks of them, and they don't. And they're not moving to the conference. So the Pac-12 is a very kind of unique conference that is different, very, very different in its character and its attitude and its strategies and its scope and its magnitude than the Big 12. And so they're not interested in moving. And so again, the strategy says they wouldn't, the money says they wouldn't, the logic says they wouldn't, and direct university leaders say they won't. And that includes both on and off the record.
Yeah,
It'd be
we're
good to
having
have
an
a guest.
interesting conversation so far with Tony Altimore talking Pac-12 football, and again, he's given us insight that I think us college football fans probably should care about. Uh, I don't know if a lot of college football fans really care much about a TV deal. I think that
I think they
you
shouldn't.
will care. Well,
I
I'll say this: when they take it off your television, you're gonna care. I
Well, but
mean
here's the
that's
thing. I
my
mean, if you look at this season, look at how many games the Big 12 is already streaming on ESPN Plus. If you're a
true.
Washington fan or a Michigan State fan, you're going to have to watch it on Peacock. I mean, the thing is the reason these networks are paying so much money for these games is so they can put it on the platforms they want. And again, if you're a Big Ten fan, you're going to have games on Peacock. If you're an SEC fan, you're going to have games.
Are we losing Tony?
Oh, you there? Sorry. We have
Oh,
a
there we
storm
go. I
right
think
now, so it's crazy. StreamYard froze up.
yeah, it
What
did.
I'm saying is, if you are a college football fan going forward, some of these games are going to be on streaming platforms. However, for the Pac-12, it's a little bit different because we've had to deal with the Pac-12 networks, which are so hard to get that streaming is an
Yeah.
improvement. I mean, I don't watch ESPN Plus. We have Peacock, we have Apple TV, I've got Amazon, all that kind of stuff. We get a lot of it with our cable package. So one of the things that I think is an issue here is that there's sort of like a fake idea, particularly again in a lot of these fans that keep sort of ripping on the Pac-12. They think like, oh, if I say this dumb thing on Twitter, maybe a team will come to us. And it's like, no, well, first of all, that was never going to
Yeah.
happen. And second, you don't understand what the mindset is of those other conferences. So, again, the Big Ten, my Michigan State friends are up in arms because they've got a major game on Peacock. Well, do you like that? Your new $90 million contract because that's what it comes with.
Yeah, absolutely. So interesting conversation there, about the TV deal. And, obviously not everyone's going to be happy. There's going to be people kind of ticked off about it. And it is
Always.
what it is. I mean, find your own way to watch college football is what I'll say to that. Want to talk a little bit, big year next year in college football with the 2024 college football playoff expansion. You have USC, UCLA leaving, possibly Washington and Oregon. So with
Again,
these
that
teams,
is absolutely not based on anything other than Twitter imagination.
the
The Big
Washington
Ten,
and Oregon part.
yeah, the Big Ten has been very clear. Washington, Oregon were turned down. The Big
Okay.
Ten presidents have been incredibly clear that they are not at this time looking at anything dilutive.
I got
And
you.
and once again, the Washington president, who is the chair of the Pac-12, and the Oregon acting president have agreed to the Pac-12 grant of rights. So
Okay.
it
So they're
is a fake Big 12 rumor. Because the thing about
yeah.
it is that there's a lot of like really not very smart people in the Big 12 fan base, not the schools. The actual schools are awesome. The students are awesome. The faculty are great. But a lot of the fans are just idiots. And there's a lot of like false idea among these idiots. Like if they just wish it harder, then like Washington, Oregon will do something and then teams will join them. And nobody wants to join them. Washington and Oregon are not leaving to the Big Ten. Again, unless the 10 presidents or whatever the Big Ten quickly changed their mind, but they haven't. They turned those schools down. They said no. So it's over.
Okay.
Foreseeable future. So we're told by the presidents, unless the presidents change their mind. But one thing university presidents don't do very often is change their mind once they made a decision.
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of changes my question then, because I'm glad you brought up that they did turn down Washington and Oregon. So they're pretty much
Last
either
year
going to
in July. Last July.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're either going to have to find their own way in another conference, which I don't think that they will, or just suck it up and stay in the Pac-12.
They
Basically,
have
the
agreed.
question that I had,
They've agreed to the Pac-12 grant of rights. So
yeah, okay. So in that case, I mean, I guess I could still ask, like, who do we expect to step up in the Pac-12? Because you're still going to have like USC gone.
yeah,
You're going to
you
have
know,
UCLA.
USC and UCLA will leave a hole. They'll leave a very old hole. So the conference was actually founded by 5 schools and stayed at 5 schools for a long time until the NCAA got mad at them because they didn't have enough. But it was founded by USC, UCLA, Cal, Stanford, and Washington. And so
Okay.
that losing 2 of those 5 and always in the room, those were the 5 that really spoke on a lot of stuff. And so losing 2 of them kind of disrupts the makeup a little bit, but at the same time, it allows teams like Washington, like Oregon, hope maybe a rebuilt Arizona State, hopefully, Cal will get back together, Utah. It allows them a better, easier path to the playoffs. So supposedly, one of the things that the Oregon athletic director has been very open about, and I don't know Rob Mullins, I haven't talked to him myself, but in lots and lots of reporting and interviews, he's been very open about the idea that it's incredibly important for Oregon to have a path to the playoffs. Right. And so one of the wonderful things about with the expanded playoff is that the Pac-12 is probably an easier path for them to get to the playoffs.
Yeah, and by the way, I mean, when you look at it too, when it does come time in 2024 next season, when we expand to the 12 teams, they're going to take the 5 conference champions 9 times out of 10.
Well, they have to take 6.
Probably. What's that?
They have to take 6.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking in my head like Power 5. So, but yeah, you are correct about that. The Pac-12 hasn't made the playoffs since
Not since UW.
2016.
Something like that. Whenever it was UW. I mean, and one of the things about the Pac-12, quite honestly, and this is Rick Neuheisel talked about this in a really great interview with Mark Schipper a couple of months ago, is the Pac-12 has always embraced like round robin scheduling. So like when there were 10 teams, you played 9 games, you played everybody. So they play 9 games, and they tend to beat each other up. Yeah. And one difference that I think you see with, the SEC in November, they've got every orphanage and Austin P and everybody like that coming to town. Troy, whoever they can fill in those gaps. And as a result, with that one fewer conference game, a lot of those teams have one fewer loss. And so you have a lot of times where the Pac-12 has sort of cannibalized itself. Now, if you're a fan, you got to see some great football games. You got to see some wild upsets, and that's fun. But if your goal is playoff access, I think there's really there's been an interesting debate over the last week or so about should the SEC go to 9 games, and the SEC sort of said no. I hate to say it, but if the SEC doesn't want to go to 9 games, should everybody else go to 8? I don't know the answer.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't really in favor of the SEC going to 9 games. I mean, you add 2 teams, and that means you got to add one more game in there. I mean, it's just going to cause a whole bunch of chaos with scheduling and everything. But
or you might get to watch more good games. So I'll tell you from the TV data analysis I've done, the last thing in the world that fans want to watch, if you look at the actual viewership numbers of those like god awful SEC cupcake games, nobody watches them. Nobody wants to see Austin P. Nobody. So one of your questions really should be at some point, to their conference, why are you scheduling this game that no one wants to see, that doesn't challenge your team and doesn't do anything other than waste time? Yeah. It's a good question. I don't have an answer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, we're having a great conversation with Tony Altimore so far about the Pac-12 to end conference week. I am curious about a team this year. We brought them up a little bit, and I'm glad that you clarified that they are staying in the Pac-12. But a team that's on my radar this year to possibly get back to the college football playoff, play their cards right, and win the Pac-12.
We'll see.
I like
Fun.
Washington this year. I like
They're
Washington,
good.
and they are good. And you got a potential Heisman candidate in Michael Penix. So talk to
He's
me
really good.
about them. Like, what are for Coach DeBoer? Like, what are the expectations for this year's team? Like, how
They're
far can
high.
they go?
Yeah, they're really high. I mean, so one of the things, I don't know if you remember like the old Washington days, the Dog Father, Don James. I mean, Washington
Yeah,
was a force. I mean, Washington ruled the North. And so having them down has really been bad for the conference. One of the things about the 2010s is you had Washington down, USC down, UCLA down, Arizona State down, Arizona awful, Colorado awful. So all these like great powers of the past were really bad during the 2010s. So
yeah,
having Washington back is really, really good for the conference. And they've got Michael Penix Jr. They got a great defense. They've got a really good line. They've got great receivers. And they have a really, really, really good coaching staff. Jen Cohen's their athletic director, and she's doing a bang up job.
yeah.
They have a little bit of a deficit, so she's sort of getting smeared in the Seattle papers this week. But I'm sure if they do anything near what they're supposed to in football, I'm sure she'll make that up.
Right. Yeah, I mean, again, like this is a team I'm excited for.
They're gonna be good.
So you have USC, you have Washington, Oregon also sticks out to me. I'm an Alabama fan, but I even like a guy like Bo Nix. I think he's got good character. I think that he could be a great quarterback.
Supposed to be a great
Talk to me
guy.
about the kind of season. Yeah, talk to me about the kind of season he could potentially have this upcoming year. And is he the guy that can lead the Oregon Ducks back to a glory road in college football? You know what I'm saying?
Well, we'll see. I mean, so Oregon didn't get good until the 90s. I mean, Oregon was brutal up until the 90s.
Yeah.
And then I mean they got some really great coaches. What's his name? Can't I'm blanking on his last name right now. Who caught the pick and ran it in to beat Washington, like delivered Oregon to the Rose Bowl. Changed Oregon with one play. But they really are in a good shape, really in good shape to maybe do something. That Oregon Washington game is going to be which is really just like when they call it hate week. It is a war between the states, and it'll be a really heck of a good game coming up. The big question for them though is will losing Kenny Dillingham have an effect? So he did a brilliant job as their offensive coordinator last year, and then went to Arizona State. So we'll see, can he build up Arizona State and what's Oregon going to look like without him? Their defense was a little suspect, but it's supposedly gotten better. They're returning a lot of folks on the offense, but also had a few losses. So we'll see where they go, but they should be good. And I'm really excited. The USC at Autzen game is going to be USC's last foreseeable trip to Autzen Stadium. So I know that they'll just have that roaring.
Remind me again when that game is. Is that October or November?
I'd have to check the date. I don't remember exactly. Okay. It's later.
Either way, that's going to be a big game. And like I said, I'm high. I think it's going to come down. I get the hype around Washington. I get Michael Penix. I think it is, like I said, going to be one of those three teams to win the Pac-12.
And don't count out
really
Utah.
like Oregon this year.
Yeah, and Utah count out Utah.
Yeah.
Just when you count Utah out, they come and smoke you.
That is true. And we've counted them out.
And they've got a lot of players coming back. They've got Cam Rising coming back. They lost Dalton Kincaid. They lost a few guys, but they've got Cam Rising back. They've got a lot of guys in their defense, but they're going to be good.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Yeah, those four are going to be a force.
Kyle Whittingham is one of my favorite coaches in college football too. I think that he's got a right attitude for the game. I think he's got a good mindset. How did I forget about Utah, man? I mean, that's the crazy thing about the Pac-12 this year is because it seems like USC, Washington, it seems like you have these teams that are a force, but then you have this team that's been knocking on the door for these past few years in Utah, and all of a sudden they're on the back burner.
In the Rose Bowl the last 2 years.
Right.
So yeah, so we'll see what happens. I mean, they're going to be good. Washington State's going to be good, which will
Yep.
be kind of fun to see. Oregon State, I mean, so the big issue with Oregon State last year is they couldn't throw the ball. They didn't have a quarterback. So
Right.
they went to Clemson and got DJ Uiagalelei. And again, that's an Oregon State team that won 10 games last year. They lost some pretty key people on defense, but they're still going to be good. So you got like about 6 teams there that can do just about anything. Again, the 2 Arizona schools are both wild cards because they both were really, really in the depths. Jed Fish has been bringing back Arizona. Kenny Dillingham with Arizona State. You've got, I don't know what's going to happen with Colorado. Can they win some games? Will they be winless? No, literally nobody has any idea what's going to happen with that situation. So that's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. So I'll ask you this about Colorado. Like, what was your immediate reaction when you found out that Dion was the head coach?
I was excited for them. The thing is they need a spark. They need change. That
Right.
team was so bad. And not only was that team bad, but they had some good players who all got picked off. I mean, USC went and got some of their good players, a bunch of schools. So they were left with not just a bad team, but the charred remnants of a bad team. And you knew that he was going to have to make huge change. It had to be done. It had to happen. And you knew that it was going to be hard. So I think he's taken a little too much flack for that because change had to happen. But again, we'll see what's going to go on. That's a wild card. I mean, they might not win a game, or they might make a bowl. It could, and it's like roll the dice. What it's going to be anywhere in between that.
I think even though they're taking a step back, don't overlook their week 1 game with TCU because TCU still has a little bit of returning production. And Sonny Dykes, I mean, this guy went to the national title in his first year. So,
TCU might also score 80 points.
Right.
They may kill Colorado. So that'll be interesting to see.
Absolutely. I've run through everything I've wanted to ask you. I mean, I don't want to keep you too long or anything, but what else is there out there that you would advise college football fans know about the Pac-12 this upcoming season?
Keep an eye out. Again, everybody's going to be coming at USC and UCLA both because it's going to be their last year in the conference. So people are going to be after them with a vengeance, and look for some upsets. I mean, the wild thing about the Wild Wild West is there are always crazy upsets. I mean, I will never forget when Stanford beat USC as a 43-point underdog or whatever they were. So
yes.
you never know what's going to happen, and it should be an interesting and fun year for that. So I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Tony, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you doing this. And
It's great to be here. I appreciate it. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll have to catch your Pac-12 shows on the Voice of College Football a little more often.
Anytime. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. You got it, man. Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
All right. All right, guys. A big thank you to all of the guests, not even just Tony, this week for conference week. I know this was our shortest one. I know we kind of ran through it. I'm going to be honest, it's been a busy day for me. And it's just so hard to figure out the Pac-12 this year. It's so hard to come up with these questions. It's so hard to just figure out, like, what do I want to know about the Pac-12? Some of these questions kind of came off the cuff. Some of them I kind of had prepared. I thought it was a good conversation. I thought it was a good flow of conversation. And ultimately, I think we did okay on today's show. So we'll get a call-in show Sunday night with you guys. And I hope you guys just enjoy your weekend. Today's Saturday. I should have done this Thursday, but we had some scheduling issues between myself and Tony. He had to take over for Joey Foster. Won't get into too many more details there, but man, I love you guys. And I want to again thank you. We are at 1.02 subscribers. 1,000. Over 1,000. And we got to get the watch hours up if we want to get monetized. But I don't do it for the money. I don't do it for fame or fortune. I mean, yes, as a future sports journalist, you want to get your name out there and, meet people, stay in touch with people, have contacts. But, I'm just a sports fanatic. I'm just a college football guy, just like anybody else in this community. So, um, I kind of wish we had Tony in here for this one, but all anyone needs to know about the Pac-12 is their days are numbered. It's well, I guess I would agree. You still have the Arizona schools. You still got Oregon and Washington, Oregon State. You're losing two teams, at least for now. But I would agree that if any conference out there seems to be in the worst possible shape, it's probably the Pac 12 on the West Coast. Well, we're going to get out of here, folks. I love you guys. It is 4:33 Central Time. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Be sure to leave a thumbs up on your way out. Leave a reaction on Facebook. And yeah, we'll get some more team previews coming very soon. I love you guys. Jesus loves you. Put God first. And as always, roll tide. Ballard Sports Media checking out. I love y'all. Peace. Thanks so much for a great week.